The priest held the newborn prince in his hands and put him into the cold water for baptism. In the presence of everyone, he accepted the blessing from God. After the solemn ceremony, the priest quickly took the baby out and put a blessing necklace on him, which symbolized rebirth and good wishes for a new life. However, when the priest invited the princess to be baptized, the princess refused because she was a shaman witch and her mysterious power was enough to protect herself. Although the princess gave in again and again, the priest was relentless and issued a stern warning that if the princess did not get baptized, then she was not a woman and the prince she gave birth to would be regarded as an illegitimate child and would not be able to enjoy the status of a future prince. He then ordered everyone to drive the princess into the water. The priest's words completely angered the princess and she quickly took off her clothes. Before everyone could react, the princess's entire body had entered the river. At this time, the princess had an evil look on her face, as if she had changed into a noodle shop. Under everyone's gaze, the princess was slowly swallowed by the river. The sword princess was in danger. The prince immediately chased after her, but was stopped by the guards. The prince's personal guard jumped in without hesitation. But the next second, the princess mysteriously appeared on the other side of the river. The sword princess wanted to leave. The prince went crazy by boat to chase her. Until late at night, the prince did not find her figure. At this time, the biting cold weather made everyone's body unable to recover. The prince was forced to give up the pursuit. The two hungry babies in the room were crying because they refused other people's milk. The maids tried all methods, but the little prince still refused other people's milk, which made the prince anxious. Love the departure of the man and the crying of the child made the young man shed tears. He held the little prince in his arms and stroked his face. The melancholy expression seemed to make the little prince understand something and sucked the prince's fingers. At the same time, the guard who was watching the drama had already frozen in the forest. The princess just stroked his face. The next second, the guard came back to life. The guard told the princess with his frozen lips that his two children were starving to death. The next day, the prince was awakened by the noise outside. It turned out that the princess was worried about the safety of the children and rushed back in the severe cold. When she saw the princess could no longer hold on and fainted. The prince and the maids quickly rubbed their hands with adhesive tape and evenly applied it on the princess's body to dispel the cold. When the princess was stiff, the body temperature recovered. The maid brought the little prince in. When the little prince sucked his mother's milk, the maid couldn't help crying at the heartwarming scene. A few years later, Moscow had completed most of its unification. Only Mykash and Asuka were left. The Moscow army would arrive here when the cold winter came. After the messenger informed Mykash, Mykash sent a messenger to Asuka's territory. But Asuka took the messenger's name directly and took out his heart and sent it to Mykash. The messenger gave Mykash two choices, either to destroy Asuka from Moscow or to destroy him. Little did he know that this was the messenger's conspiracy. Although Asuka had a blood feud with him, Mykash, who always advocated peace, had always been reluctant to open fire with it. But this time, for the sake of his people, he had to go to war with it. The war was about to break out. Under the blessing of the priest, the prince led the army to the territory of Asuka. The princess watched her beloved leave him reluctantly. His heart was full of worries. The messenger's eyes full of desire were staring at the beautiful princess. After the army left, the messenger could not wait to come to the princess's bedroom and express his unbearable love words. But the princess humiliated him severely. The unyielding messenger took advantage of the alcohol to tease the princess in broad daylight. The princess poured a basin of cold water on him. But the messenger hugged the princess directly. The princess grabbed the messenger's chest. Because of anger, the princess gave up her original form. The messenger fainted directly. Then the messenger found the priest in horror and told him that the princess was a setup. But the priest did not believe him. So he showed his wound to the priest. For safety reasons, the priest led everyone to take the prince and princess away. The princess was forced to use her own strength to scare several people away. Since then, the princess has imprisoned herself and waited for the return of her lover. When Mykash's army arrived under the city of Asuka, they encountered a thorny problem. How to pass through the door became a problem. However, the cold weather made the steep hillsides icy and unable to stand, which undoubtedly increased the difficulty of the war. Asuka's soldiers were still mocking Mykash's overestimation of his own abilities. As he said this, he pushed a sled dog down. Little did he know that Mykash had been lonely for a long time. The harsh thunder broke through the sky, which was the precursor of the coming blizzard. Mykash's soldiers were also ready to move. Soon the earth was covered with a thick layer of silver. The soldiers carried the heavy loads hard under the cover of the sled. Under the cover of the crowd, with concerted efforts, they successfully avoided the sentries on the city wall and successfully reached the city gate. The soldiers took out a screw drill and drilled a big hole in the city gate. Then they inserted a nail-shaped card into the city gate. By the time the soldiers on the city wall found out, it was already too late. The soldiers seemed to cut off the supporting points and the heavy sled slid down quickly with the gate. With the sound of the horn, the soldiers hiding in the dark also swarmed up. The long sword whistled out, tearing through the cold wind and penetrating the snowflakes. The biting cold wind mixed with wailing and roaring spread throughout the country. At this time, the defenseless Asuka soldiers were in chaos. In a trance, Mykash saw the scene of his father's tragic death in front of him. Asuka appeared in front of him with a reindeer. The hatred suppressed in his heart made Mykash burst out with unprecedented strength and defeated Asuka. Although the war was won, the way back was more difficult than the way there. Difficult. The long-term battle and the cold environment made them suffer from hunger. In order not to slow down the progress of the army, a large number of wounded and sick soldiers gave up their lives and lined up to jump into the lake one by one. Seeing this scene made Mykash's heart tormented. After going through hardships and dangers, Mykash finally returned to his kingdom with a small number of troops. Women swarmed in the crowd to search for their loved ones. But the prince could not see the princess he missed. From the messenger, he learned that the princess locked herself in the room after he left and had not gone out for 6 months. No one knew whether he was dead or alive. The prince who heard this ignored his physical fatigue and tried his best to run to his lover. The moment he opened the door, the tortured two people could no longer suppress their emotions. The tortured appearance of the two people could not help but make each other feel distressed. Then he's an edgecuck his issue every Steven. Then he's not. Why? Why? At this time, the Moscow prince had arrived in Parmal. But the purpose of his coming this time was not so simple. Want more thrilling stories like this? Hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications to never miss a recap.